All right, thank you. We'll start with Mr. Cerisi. I'd like to ask you what you think Congress, and particularly the Senate, can do in the area of education, given what's happened in the last several years with No Child Left Behind, and also the issues with special needs.
Well, number one, when we have federal mandates, we should pay for them. The Congress said they were going to pay for special education, and they have not done so. As a result, this state is paying hundreds of millions of dollars for special education. Secondly, I would scrap No Child Left Behind. Every single teacher I've talked to in this state, and I went to, and Al was up there also, I remember, at St. Ben's and St. Joseph's, and we went around and talked to, I must have talked to 300 teachers up there, workshop. I said, what's the best and what's the worst of No Child Left Behind? They couldn't say what was good about it. They told me what was bad about it. Now, they're not afraid of testing. Nobody is. But what we do is we expect under No Child Left Behind that everybody is the same coming in, and they're not. And then we don't test progress from one grade to the next. We just do snapshots in time. So we don't know how a fourth grader really progressed to the fifth grade. We don't know what was done. And then if they don't meet the standard, instead of doing what we've done in the past by helping people, we penalize them. So it seems to me that what we need to do is scrap No Child Left Behind and start over. At the secondary level, I've already told you what I thought, and that is that I would have a 21st century education fund. I'd pattern after municipal bonds, double tax-free, so that Americans could invest in America's children. And they get a lower interest rate coming back, but it's guaranteed by the government. We're investing, doesn't cost the government next to anything. And our children, instead of paying 7, 8, 9% interest rates, would be paying 3.5%, 4% on their loans. We need to do that so that college education is affordable to the middle class, not just to those who are very poor, if they ever get a chance to get to it based on the education they're getting in their first through 12th grade, or to the very rich. Education should be affordable to everyone. Those are the things that I would start with. But I certainly start, as Mark Dayton tried to do time and time again, and say, live up to your federal mandate on special ed and pay it. If they just went to 20%, we'd save hundreds of millions of dollars in the state of Minnesota.
Thank you, Mr. Cerisi. Mr. Franken?
Yeah, someone would, when I get to the Senate, someone is going to have to explain unfunded mandates to me. The federal government actually first promised to spend fund 40% of special ed, and it's now down to 14%. My daughter taught third grade in an inner city school for 3 years, and she taught third grade. And that was the first year that No Child Left Behind testing is implemented. And it was ridiculous. She had kids whose parents were in prison. She had kids whose parents who lived in shelters, and they were expected to compete with kids from Edina and from Taylor Park in Golden Valley. And it was such a strain on my daughter that she left. She became a chef. She now teaches preschoolers how to cook. Which brings me to early childhood education. We need early childhood education. We're going to close these gaps. A kid who's been read to has 2 to 3 times the vocabulary by the time he or she's in kindergarten of a kid who hasn't been read to. Art Rolnick of the Fed here in Minneapolis, in the Twin Cities, says the return on investment on early childhood education has been proven. We should be doing that. And we should bring down the cost of higher education and, again, increase the amount that Pell Grants pay, the percentage of education that Pell Grants pay. We got to spend more time, focus more funds and more effort on the beginning of life, and stop investing in prisons and start investing in schools.
Thank you. As to the No Child Left Behind Act, it is not working because it hasn't been funded adequately. That's the key reason that it isn't working. The notion of high achievement, the notion of assessment, the notion of understanding the quality of each student and being able to gauge whether she or he is able to make it through the schools and to then be a productive citizen is a key issue. I don't think the way in which this is being funded right now that there's any way to keep No Child Left Behind. We need to take a look at the act is called the Elementary and Secondary Authorization Act, and that's sort of the nuance, the new version of No Child Left Behind. And on May 15th of this year, the National Education Association issued a joint report with about a host of different national agencies and said, we don't have to scrap No Child Left Behind, but we have to have very different standards for accountability, for assessment, for educator performance. We have to pay our teachers what they are worth, reasonable pay. They are not being given reasonable pay. They're one of the highest professional commitments in our society, and we're not giving them the opportunity to be effective teachers or to measure the student's progress. We need to measure a student's progress, though, based on both special needs and those who are not special need children. The only way to do that is, as Al and Mike have both said, make sure that a mandate is a mandate. That's a demand that we fund at greater than 17%, which is what the federal government is now funding the act under.
Well, I taught school in inner city Chicago after college, so I have a real appreciation for the challenges that a lot of teachers face. My kids have all gone to public schools in Minneapolis. I have great respect for teachers in that system. I also get frustrated when programs get cut year after year and the class sizes get bigger and bigger and bigger. Now, let's talk a little bit about money. Last year, 57 cents out of every dollar that Congress voted on went to military spending. 4 cents went to education. 2 cents went to the environment. And we wonder why bridges fall down. Less than 2 cents went to transportation. So let's be perfectly honest here and just say, all of our hopes and dreams about a better society hinge on this country not spending half the world's military spending and redefining security and putting education at the heart of that and healthcare at the heart of that. Now, let me also say I believe there should be full funding for special education. I told you earlier we can cut the U.S. military budget by 10% and have a universal preschool program for 3 to 5-year-olds. We should do that. Be one of the greatest investments that we could make. I also said we could reverse Bush's tax breaks to the richest 1%. And for that amount of money, every student attending a public college and university in this country could do so free. I don't think it's enough to provide better loan conditions for students. I think as a nation, we need to make college affordable in this country. And there are ways that we can do that. I also think we need to repeal the No Child Left Behind Act, which is incredibly punitive. And I have brothers who are teachers, and they would confirm that as well. Thank you.
Mr. Shrews? All right. So we're starting.
That'll take another 2 minutes.
No, no, no.